Welcome to Successfully Simple, the creative entrepreneur's guide to working less and living more. I'm your host, Erin Flynn, and I've been running my creative business since 2012, and now I'm sharing everything I can to help you along your journey. On this podcast, we'll be diving into ways that you can find the support that you need, simplify your business so that you can work less while still hitting your goals, create a signature service with consistent income, systematize your business so that it runs smoothly, and sell without feeling sleazy. Let's dive into today's episode. How do you know if a project is a good fit for you? Hey there, Erin here, and this is another post update turned podcast, again updating a 2016 post that is an oldie but a goodie, and adding, a little bit of a 2020 twist on it now that I have had 4 more years of experience. So I want to know, have you ever taken on a project that you thought was a good fit but ended up being a really bad one? If so, don't worry, it happens to all of us. And sometimes we get a gut feeling, which we should definitely trust, but not always. Sometimes those bad fits blindside us and we have to dig our way out of the mess. So I'm going to cover today a few ways to pinpoint whether a project is a good fit or not. First of all, are you excited to work on the project? When you think about the project, are you excited? Are you apathetic? Are you already dreading it? When you are not interested in a project, at least mildly, your work and the project is probably going to suffer. When you are excited about working on something and you enjoy the work, you are more likely to pay greater attention to details, to go above and beyond to ensure that you're creating the best website or whatever the project is for your client, and to produce something that both you and your client are proud to show off. But when you dread working on a project, either because you don't like the client or the project itself is not what you want to be working on, it's really hard to stay motivated. So again, if you're a web designer, figuring out a tough piece of code becomes a nightmare instead of a fun challenge. If you are, anybody working with a slightly tricky client, slightly high maintenance, becomes really, really frustrating versus something you can totally handle, right? You start to resent the project and or the client, and you cringe just thinking about all the work that you have left to do. And, the honest truth is that we are not going to love our jobs or our businesses every day. Sometimes it doesn't matter how great the project is. We have bad days, and we're not going to love every single project or client that we work with. But we should never work with someone who is such a bad fit that we have zero enthusiasm about the whole thing. It is not fair to us, and it is not fair to the client. You should approach each potential question or each potential project with the question, would I do this for free? If the answer is a resounding yes or no, then you know where you stand. And if you answer no to every inquiry, you might want to change professions. But more often, the answer is somewhere in the middle. So take some time and really consider whether you want to do the project. Take the money out of the equation. Is this something you're going to enjoy working on or not? Is the client part of your target audience? So we've talked before about niching your business, finding ideal clients, but you may still get inquiries from people who fall outside your target market. And if you want to work with wedding photographers and you get an inquiry from an auto repair shop, you need to consider whether it's a project that you want to take on. Now, these projects that fall outside our target audience can pay well, but they often have less benefit to our business because adding them to our portfolio dilutes our brand and our niching and our focus. And working with these clients actually makes us unavailable if someone in our ideal audience does come along wanting to hire us, but we're already booked out. So should you take on a client who isn't part of your target audience? It depends. If they're a great fit otherwise, if there's someone you would enjoy working with and you don't have someone else that you would rather work with waiting, it could end up being a really fun project and shake things up a bit by allowing you to do something new. But on the flip side, you have to weigh out whether taking them on is going to make you have to say no to someone that you really, really do want to work with. Is the client willing to pay your rate? So I do not wait long before talking at least rough numbers. I try to give a rough quote as soon as possible to see if the client is willing to pay my rates. And this happens on my inquiry form, but I bring up my rates in the intro packet, which is in the first email that I send them. If they are not willing, they normally disappear or they ask me to go lower. While I will check in on someone who doesn't respond, if they ask me to go lower, I take work off the quote or I send them somewhere else. Clients who are looking for deals tend to scope creep the most in my experience. Now, if the client is willing to go without some bells and whistles, you can often salvage the project and focus simply on the basics that they need to achieve their goals, while giving them the ability to come back later for all the fancy stuff. But if the client is insistent that you lower your rate, maybe they offer exposure in exchange, you can pretty much guarantee that they're going to try to haggle the entire project and that they're going to become a problem. Are you capable of the work involved? So as someone who has completed several website development projects that ended up being over the original developers' heads, I can tell you that underestimating the work involved happens pretty often. And to be honest, look, I have done it too. I've gotten stuck and I've had to hire someone else to come in and troubleshoot things that were beyond my knowledge. And in my case, this is mostly like server and email stuff, both of which I hate doing, and it's just not something I should ever try to tackle for a client. Now, this kind of stuff happens, but you should not go into a project that you know you are not capable of completing unless you have plans to hire that work out to someone who is willing and capable of completing it. So before accepting any project, you should take an honest assessment of the skills the project will involve and whether you are capable of doing them or learning them. Now, learning on the job is part of being a creative business owner, and if you don't learn anything from your projects, you may need to reach a little farther, right? You don't want to be bored. But you should not be completely over your head with no clue where to start. And your clients shouldn't suffer due to your inexperience. So, for example, losing hundreds of blog posts or comments when redesigning a website because you didn't know how to transfer them can happen. That's what happened on some projects that I took over. It should not happen, okay? If you've never migrated content before, you should test it before doing it for your client. And of course, this goes for any industry. You want to make sure that you are not getting in so far over your head that you are damaging your client's business if you mess something up. Now, you can learn, but you should not be learning at your client's expense. You should practice, test, and make sure that you understand what you are doing before you risk a client's hard work over a payday for yourself. And of course, if you do mess it up, you need to make it right. By the way, if you are enjoying this episode and you want to make it even easier to kind of go through and figure out if a project is a good fit for you, I have a quiz. It's all about how to determine if a project is a good fit or not. You can check that out at erinflynn.com/client-screening-quiz. So erinflynn.com/client-screening-quiz, and it will actually walk you through all of these questions and give you a result. All right, the next question is, do you and the client communicate clearly? Clear communication between you and the client is crucial for the project to go smoothly. You can be excited about the project and completely capable of seeing it through, but if you and the client can't communicate, then the project is doomed before it even begins. You must be on the same page and speaking the same language as your client. It doesn't matter how amazing the project sounds. If you don't understand what the client wants, you are not going to be able to deliver it. If struggling to communicate with a client who otherwise seems like a great fit, ask yourself how you can communicate more clearly. So maybe email is just a really difficult, medium for this client. Could you include screenshots in your emails instead? Could you hop on Zoom once a week so that you can screen share? Can you use her language so that you know when she's talking about a banner on a website, she means the website header, right? If you cannot get clear on your communication, you may end up with a nightmare client because you two will be speaking two different languages and talking about two entirely different things. Hey there, really quick before we get back to the episode, if you want to create your own Successfully Simple business, you need to join my premium program. The Successfully Simple Shortcut is an intentionally small group program and community of service-based creative entrepreneurs who want to work less and live more. Inside the Shortcut, you'll learn exactly how to implement the 5 pillars that are crucial to your success: support, simplify, sell, signature, and systematize. But not only that, you'll also get the support and the feedback that you need to truly define success on your own terms and move the needle in your business. This is not a course, it's a training and community to help your business thrive. Doors open a few times a year, so head to erinflynn.com/shortcut right now to join or to get on the waitlist and be first in line when the doors open again. That's erinflynn.com/shortcut. All right, now let's get back to the show. The next question is, are you both clear on the goal of the project? A project without an end goal serves no purpose. Remember, you need to ask your clients why they want to do this project, and everyone needs to be clear on what the project is supposed to accomplish. If your client is not clear on why they are hiring you, you're going to have to help them dig deep and figure out what the purpose will be, or you should not be taking on the project. Some clients may be clear from the moment they contact you, and others might need some hand-holding, and still others may be unwilling to think past, oh, I just know that I need a website, or oh, I just know I need a sales page, or oh, I just know that I need website copy, right? They don't know the exact reasoning or goal behind it, which helps no one. And when clients are unclear about why they need whatever service you're providing and they refuse to get clear, it doesn't matter how clear you are. You're going to run into problems because you cannot meet client expectations that do not exist. Is the client organized? So when a client is all over the place, it can be really, really hard to do your job. Wrangling disorganized clients is like herding cats. It might be even harder because with clients, you generally only have a phone or an email to help them along, and they don't come running when you open a can of turkey and giblets. At least I hope that they don't. Look at how the client writes her emails or fills out your inquiry form. Is everything organized and thought out, or does she seem to be typing in the middle of a thought and expect you to be able to magically interpret? When you get on calls with her, is she frazzled and disorganized, jumping from one idea to the next, or does she give thoughtful responses to your questions? When you ask her the initial questions you need in order to put together a quote, do her responses make sense and seem well thought out? Working with disorganized clients can very quickly become a nightmare. If a client is disorganized on initial contact, it is very unlikely that she will get organized when the project begins. Is the timeline realistic? Sometimes clients want things done yesterday, and unless you've got a TARDIS, you cannot make that happen. So look at the timeline the client is requesting and whether it matches your schedule or not. If the timeline does not match your schedule, is the client willing to adjust their expectations and go with the schedule that you recommend? If yes, great. If not, will they pay you overtime to get the project done on their schedule? Unless a client is making it worth your while to work extra hours and weekends and you are willing to do that, then an unrealistic timeline will just stress both of you out and create problems. Are you both on the same page? You and your clients need to be on the same page, from price to project management system to timeline. One of the easiest ways to do this is to create an intro packet that lets clients know what to expect before you start working together. An intro packet outlines your basic procedures, how you'll communicate during the project, what is expected of the client and at what stage, like when is their content due or when do they need to give you feedback on things, as well as any other information that the client needs to know before you get started. Likewise, you need to be on the same page as your client in terms of what you'll be providing in exchange for their money. When the actual scope of work may come after the initial screening process, you can nail down the basics, like what type of project you're working on, what's going to be the expected outcome, etc., early on. It is very important that you outline at least a rough scope very early so that you're both on the same page about what the end product will be. And of course, if you have a signature service, which I totally recommend that you do, the outline is already there and your client will know what it is you'll be doing for them before they even contact you. So check out the show notes for more info on that. What does your gut tell you? So most freelancers or creative entrepreneurs are going to tell you you should always trust your gut. Sometimes you recognize that something is wrong and you can't form the proper thought, but you should trust your instincts and avoid any project that just doesn't feel right. So is that project a good fit for you? Bad fits don't necessarily mean bad clients, but if you're not excited to work on a project or it doesn't fit the audience you're trying to attract, maybe pass on it. Make use of referrals and others in your industry who will return the favor. You should never feel guilty for passing a project on to someone who is excited to work on it. Now, if a project is beyond your skill set, you can either hire out the portions that you're not able to do. Just make sure that you plan for that so you can bring in someone to complete that work. Or if the entire project is beyond your level, you can pass it on to someone with more experience. When a client is not clear on their goals or is too disorganized, you're going to spend the project trying to wrangle that client instead of producing great work. And if a client is not willing to pay you for your expertise or demands unrealistic timelines, the chance for hard feelings is multiplied about 1,000,000 times. And if you can't even talk to your client, it doesn't matter how great the project could be, you'll never be on the same page. You can try to adapt your communication, but if that fails, then it is better to pass the project on to someone who understands the client and maybe has a similar communication style so there are not communication issues the whole way through. And finally, remember to trust your gut. It very rarely, if ever, steers you wrong. So if you want to take the quiz, again, head to erinflynn.com/client-screening.quiz. The link is, of course, going to be in the show notes as well. And you can use this quiz to screen your client projects. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Any links mentioned in this episode will be included in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever platform you like to listen to podcasts on. And if you really enjoyed the show, please take 2 minutes to leave me a review so that others can find the show and create their own successfully simple business. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode.